You want to share about the baseball analogy, or what were you going to share about that?
Oh, I was going to see if you would share the baseball analogy
Oh,
because
sure. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
I can. Well, before I share that though, what I will tell you, Gretchen, is, samples are interesting because you're gonna find that actually. And I think it was like back in 2018 when we first came out with products, I did the same. I actually sent some people samples in the mail and I had a lot of those same results. And so, you know what I actually do now, Gretchen? I will not send anybody a sample in the mail unless they've become a customer first of something. So here's what I mean by that is if somebody is interested in like Mojo as an example, I'll say, great, I want you to get the best impact you possibly can. And, I could send you a sample, but really at the end of the day, I always say it's best to at least give a product a full 30 days. So here's what I encourage you, Gretchen, is if you become a customer on Mojo, I'll actually send you some extra samples of maybe our enhanced creamer so you can try what that Mojo is going to taste like with our creamer. And then what I'll do, Gretchen, is they become a customer and then I'll send them a handwritten thank you note. And then I'll send them like maybe 2 samples or 3 samples of the enhanced. So now I'm actually that if they love the product, guess what they're going to do? They'll order that product and then maybe they'll want the enhanced creamer with it. Does that kind of make sense?
So you're upselling without upselling.
Brilliant. You got it. You got it.
Brilliant. Thank you.
You got it. Yep. And the wording and language I share with people is I literally tell them, look, I could send you a sample. However, I always say it's best to give a product a full 30 days. Now I stand behind, this is me just saying this to you. I don't say this to the customer, but I am telling you, I am 100% confident that our products have so much impact that they have impact fast, that they don't need a full 30 days. But I still share with individuals, hey, you really should give something a full 30 days to at least see the impact. And that's how I get them to place that first order.
That's easy and brilliant and gives me CP and money in my pocket instead of money out of my pocket.
You got it. You got it.
Thank you.
Yep. And then the second tidbit of information I'll share, and then I'll go into the baseball analogy, Benny, is you guys also have, if you didn't know this, you actually have $5 and $10 off. I think it's a different dollar amount in Canada, but I know in the US it's $5 and $10 codes. Now, I personally, this is just me, I use those sparingly. I really don't use them very often, but if I really have somebody that maybe it's a financial thing, whatever the case is, I will then say, hey, let me at least give you a $5 or $10 off coupon. Now, granted, if you do use that, you are going to get a smaller CP from it. I forgot what the amount is, but I have by the way, there's a whole promo guide that explains how to use those discount codes. You can actually pull that off of our team website, or it's in our Trinont Go app that explains how to use those codes. And anyway, I use those sparingly, but just know that you have those at your fingertips, Gretchen, if you have somebody that's like really giving you a hard time.
I have used those like way early on and then I forgot. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just going to share very briefly. I'm very similar to Veronica. I send them samples after they order or join. And the amazing Mr. Trent Hartman, his favorite line he uses on me is, here's what we're going to do. So most people will follow your lead. And so even if like what we're going to do is go to the grocery store, he'll say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the grocery store and and like, I feel like, great, I don't have to do the thinking. So, if it was Gretchen, I was like, you know what, here's what I think we should do. Why don't you order the Mojo Brazilian coffee? I'm going to throw some samples in the mail today, because sometimes in Canada, we can get them quicker. And exactly what you're saying is, if it's the Enrich or the Optimize or the Mojo, people need that full month of trying it. And the other thing that I do find with the samples is that, say you give someone a Zest sample, if that was me, wouldn't have been my product of choice, but the Mojo Brazilian coffee, so they can kind of navigate which product is best suited for them. So I do that too. And my line is, here's what I think we should do. And then how does that sound? Awesome. Or then whatever they say after that, you kind of navigate it like, okay, well, next paycheck, or, and that's when I would bring out the discount coupon, and that's also, Gretchen, we know each other. So I'm like, here's what we're going to do. I know you, Gretchen. I think the best thing for you to do is get this one of the starter packs. You've mentioned energy, so I'd recommend these products. Then you can give a few things a try. You have a website, best case scenario, like myself, you're going to make some residual income, and otherwise, we'll navigate it there. So that's what I go into. So perfect, Veronica. Just wanted to share a few other language pieces that I use.
It's perfect because literally what you shared, that's also what I teach people as well. My language is slightly different, but it's the same process of people. They want to be led. I want you to understand most people have a mindset of being told what to do, right? Think about it. When you go to work, your boss tells you what you got to get done and then you get it done. That's just human nature. And so essentially what Benny's explaining to you is kind of like an assumptive close. You're just assuming like, hey, we're going to go this route. And if you teach them what that route is, they then will say, well, no. Then you just figure out what that new route is. Does that make sense? You pivot. So I appreciate you sharing that, Benny. That's actually
and
really
similar
cool.
to that. I just had somebody, I was actually in my Jeep having a call with a new customer on the way up here to Trent's house. And she said, oh, like, how does the pricing work? And I said, well, here's what I do. And what I recommend is you always get a 10% discount with subscription. So you can pause that at any time. And then what I do when I'm ordering is I actually order 5 products, because then you get another 8% off. So then you're getting 18% off. So that's how I order. And so she was interested in the Enrich and the Collagen and the Optimize. So I'm like, get 2 Enrich, 2 Collagen, and an Optimize, then you're going to have some savings. She was like, okay, that sounds great. So that's how I went from 1 bottle of collagen to leading her into, because from what I know, that's when people are going to get the maximum benefits. Now she's trying the Enrich, the Collagen, and the Optimize. And as Veronica said, I'm confident she's going to have results from those 3 products. She's going to save some money. So it's the best customer service I could possibly give her.
Yep. And if you need a cheat sheet, by the way, on all those different discounts, you don't have to memorize this. We already have cheat sheets. They're in 2 places, either on our team website under the business document section. There's a little, you'll see, it'll say Canada price updates or Canada shipping updates. And it's a little like black with white text document. And it tells you what the buy more, save more program allows, the free shipping. It breaks all that down for you. So you don't even have to remember it. Okay. We create cheat sheets around here. We love cheat sheets. So with that, the last thing I think you wanted me to share, Benny, real quick, was kind of building your business from event to event, which is what I call running the bases, if you understand the game of baseball. And so very similar to, if you guys remember me, when I was on the process flow chart sheet, talking about, how you take somebody through a testimonial and then obviously work them through like your funnel of sharing information. Okay, well, building your business is no different. It is as simple as understanding the game of baseball. And what do you do in the game of baseball? You have to go up to bat. Pitcher's going to throw the ball at you. You got to hit the ball, and then you have to run the bases, right? But can you run, once you hit the ball, can you run from home plate to second base? No, right? You have to run to first base first. You could probably steal second, but you still have to go to first base. So when you're growing your business, I want you to consider that when you're taking people through the bases, you have to go base by base by base. And so here's what the bases are. Base number 1 is what we call your first exposure type of scenario. And there's multiple first exposure events that you can take people through. As an example, sharing a product testimonial or ad tagging and messaging using the ATM method in one of our Facebook groups, that is exposure 1. That's a first base event. Having a 2-on-1 conversation. Here's what a 2-on-1 conversation is. Let's say you have somebody who's interested in the business, but you get yourself out of the way and you set up maybe like a 3-way call, and it's Gretchen, you and your prospect, and Benny Martin on the phone, or you're on Zoom, or you're in a 3-way chat. That is another first exposure type of scenario. Another first exposure could be sharing one of those 10-minute video overviews with somebody. That's a first exposure. Okay, another first exposure as an example could be sharing out a product flyer with somebody, or sending them to the website to take a look at some more information on Mojo or whatever product it is. Okay, those are all first exposure types of events. Another first exposure type of event is your grand opening, right? Hint, hint, wink, wink. Your grand opening is a first exposure. Okay, another first exposure could be you sending a text message to somebody, asking them to take a look at the business or seeing if they're open. Okay, those are all first exposures. Once somebody goes through a first exposure, now you're going to invite them to second base. And guess what second base is? How many of you guys have seen those amazing weekly overviews that happen every single week? You've either got a weekly overview that's hosted by Mrs. Benny Martin, maybe Miss Jen Laurie, maybe Mrs. Nikki Ribeiro, or we've got our weekly events that are hosted by myself or even Mrs. Jennifer Dowd. Those are all second exposure events. Once somebody goes to base 1, you take them to base 2. Okay. After they go to base 2, at that point, you can ask them if they're ready to get started. But sometimes, guess what? People might need to go through second base again. Okay. Here's what's interesting. You might have somebody who goes to 3 weekly events before they finally get started. You can have somebody who goes through a first base event and they're ready to get started. You never know where people are going to be. So all you have to remember in your mind is you're just putting more people on the field and running the bases. Now, once you get to second base, at that point, people will go through second base again. If they need to do it a couple times, they will. But once they get started, now you're going to take them to third base. And third base is essentially getting them plugged into training. And this is once they become an associate. They get plugged into training and they now start learning how to build their business. And then home plate is essentially your big events. That's our Trinont Leadership Academy that's coming up here in September, or our big global convention, which happens once a year. So home plate is your big leadership events. But again, if you understand the game of baseball, all you're doing with every single person that you're talking to is you're helping them run the bases. The more people you have running bases at the same time, the larger your business is going to grow. That's my simple analogy. Anything else you wanted me to share, Mrs. Martin? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. No, that was perfect. I just wanted to add that I am here anytime to jump on a 3-way call or share with a customer or a 3-way message. So that customer I shared about was actually for someone else. She said, would you be able to answer a question about collagen? And I said, sure. Have her text me. And it was a 10-minute conversation. And I'm happy to do that and help you guys out. So if you're not confident, so just so you know, when I first started, Veronica would get my messages saying, Veronica, somebody's asking about this. And she would send me a voice clip, and then I'd be able to send her that voice clip. Or like, we have so much resources and you don't have to know it all. So I always say business is like throwing spaghetti at the wall, and you just kind of keep throwing until it sticks. And the amount of people in my short 7 months that have gone from, coming to an overview or liking a post or reaching out once, sometimes it takes 1 exposure, sometimes it takes 10. Everyone's very different. And I was one of those people. Took me a little bit to get to the third base. So the number one thing I hear from people is I don't want to bug people. And if that is your mindset, then that's how it's going to occur. So switch that mindset to, how can I make a difference for that person? So one of the things that Craig Cotter mentioned was, what if nobody had shared Trinont with you? What if I hadn't followed up with you, Gretchen? What if I hadn't followed up with Rose? I know you've just started the products. But I think about that for myself and the other people in my life who are having extraordinary breakthroughs in their health and their business, because I reached out from a place of love and a place of service. And my favorite thing to do, and I do this all the time, is if someone messages me back, I just call them. If they have a question, I just get on the line with them 5 minutes, or send them a voice note, because excitement is contagious. It just is. So it's very different than sending a product flyer than somebody saying, oh my goodness, my friend had this experience. I thought of you because. So that's my number one phrase is, I thought of you because. Veronica, I thought of you because I know you had a newborn baby, and man, I wish I knew about this Mojo coffee when I was a new mama. When you come from that place, people are going to respond to you. The other thing I love to do is, Gretchen, if anybody ever ghosts you, they're probably just busy. So I like to ask a question. So for example, Rose, you just moved. So maybe you hadn't responded back to me in a while. I'd be like, oh my goodness, where did you move to? Bam, you're starting a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's all practice. So keep practicing. Thank you so much, Veronica. I know this was like a second training, but I think it's been really, really valuable for people.
Yep. And Gretchen, if you hate phone calls, it's okay. I didn't like them either in the beginning. So here's what you can practice for yourself is start doing audio clips, at least in Messenger first. Get yourself used to that. And you can actually go and message yourself your own audio clips. I personally, guys, I hate listening to myself. It's the joke I make. Like, I'll send a clip, but I'll never like listen to it again because I don't want to hear it. But what you can do, Gretchen, is actually just practice that. It'll get you used to, and then eventually phone calls will become a breeze for you.
And everybody is different, right? Like you will have but my success rate if I pick up the phone is 99%, and text, everything else goes lower. And for me, I have an 8-year-old, so voice clips drive me nuts because I have like all the noise in the background. I'm always on the run. They don't work sometimes with my headset. So I just answer the phone, but you might have a different way of doing it than me, than Trent, than Veronica. So you just keep throwing the spaghetti. And if anybody has not yet watched my live with my son this morning, go to minute 3, and he's going to tell you a very important message, which is never give up. Messages from an 8-year-old who learned how to bike. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Veronica.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you all
Thanks
soon.
both.
Make it a great day.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Penny.